Hi, I'm Susan. This is my FXR3. Technically, this is a 1999. This is Harley Davidson's first CVO bike. Well, the FXR2 and the FXR3 were both produced in 1999. FXR technically went out of production in 1994. It's a legendary bike in Harley Davidson history. It was designed by Eric Buell. What caused Harley to stop production of the bike is really accounting. The frame is hand welded, and it could not be automated, which means it took approximately 2 hours longer on the assembly line to build. So the bike was nixed for the Dyna model, which is an automated frame that can be manufactured automated on the assembly line at a cheaper cost. And you have to think about that. So in 1999, Harley Davidson lost their contract to build military bikes. They had an assembly line. They could build a limited number of bikes, and they came up with the CVO concept, Custom Vehicle Operations Bike, to build a bike on that assembly line, one a year. So they had some of these frames left over in a warehouse somewhere, and they decided to bring back the FXR. And as a matter of fact, if I get a chance, I'll show you. I have a little poster here. That was the original poster that was put in the dealerships where it says it's back. So they brought back the FXR. They called the FXR2, FXR3, and then the FXR4 in 2000. They made approximately 900 of each. That's all the frames they had. And that's all they can pretty much build on that assembly line, and is about 900 to 1,000 bikes. So it's the first CVO bike. And not only is it the first CVO bike, it's the only time in history a CVO bike has been a non-production bike. Since 2000, all CVO bikes are production bikes with nicer paint jobs, maybe better wheels, larger motors. So the bike is extremely rare. The FXR3 is probably the most popular of the three. The FXR2, which came out in 99 as well, has a 21-inch front wheel rather than 19-inch, and it's a wire wheel. It has a little different paint scheme. It came in two colors as well, like this bike came in two colors. So you had a choice of two colors, that was it. The 19-inch wheel is the original design of an FXR from Eric Buell, and when you put a 21-inch wheel on the front, you do change the geometry of the bike. Also changes the looks. It rakes it out a bit. I prefer the original look of the FXR. So I prefer the 3. I think a lot of people do prefer the 3. The 4 also had the 21-inch front wheel, wire wheel raked out as well. And also the 4 also had didn't have the black engine, it had the silver one, which is not as popular as the black. So I think the FXR3 is probably the most popular of the 3. And when I decided I wanted an FXR, I found this FXR3. And I was thrilled to find it because it's just a beautiful bike. It's got some of the, a little bit more modern upgrades on it from Harley Davidson. For instance, the rounded turn signal housings, where the old FXR are squared off, because back in 94, that's where they were. They didn't change to this style until 96. So in 99, they went ahead and put this style on. So there's a few things like that that kind of add to the bike that I think make it even nicer than the older models. A lot of people call this second generation FXR, some of the old guys, that have been around for a while. I purchased this bike in 2008. The bike was stock, bone stock, low miles. I wanted to build a bike the way I ride, not the way someone else rides. I found a site in Florida called Night Rider, where a man had built a bike for his wife to race, a Dyna. So I liked the profile of that bike. It's the way I ride, and I thought that would work for me. So I decided to copy what he had done. I contacted him, however, and asked him one question. And that question was, if you were going to do anything different, what would it be? And he said he would put in a different cam. And I said, what cam would you put in? He said, I put in the Comp Cam V Thunder 5000. I said, thank you. So the bike is basically built around that cam. This cam pulls from the get-go all the way to $6,000. That's what I wanted. It's a very torquey cam. It's probably 90 foot-pounds of peak torque. The bike will climb a tree. It's an incredible bike as far as torque and power. Will it keep up with 110 cubic inch at 100 miles an hour after 100? No, but I'm not going to be going 100 miles an hour. Stop sign to stop sign. This bike will beat anybody. As you see, I changed a lot of things. These are work shocks. If you're not familiar with works are fully adjustable and they're also rebuildable. They're not cheap, but they're the best shocks you can buy, in my opinion. And because you can rebuild them, they can last you a lifetime. As obvious, I put Vance and Hine dual staggers on it. I like the sound of dual staggers, rather 2-in-1. 2-in-1 might have bought me a couple more horsepower, but I don't need it. It has a stock CV carburetor. It's 80 cubic inch Evolution. That's what came in these bikes. I didn't change that. The paint job is a chameleon paint job. I don't know how it's coming across on the camera, but it's a two-tone green. It's not green and black. What looks black in the shade, it will look green in the sun, a dark green. So it's a two-tone emerald green color. They made approximately 900 of these bikes, of the FXR3, and probably 2/3 of them were the two-tone green, and about a third were a two-tone blue. The bike sold only in the United States because of limited production. Not every dealer necessarily got one. If they did, they sold it to their best customer, and they only sold it within their territory. And the bikes went well over sticker price. There was a lot of pent-up demand for an FXR because they hadn't been around since '94. And they're no longer. It's a very well-balanced bike. It's got a low center of gravity, designed by Eric Buell. It doesn't have the high-speed wobble problems that the Dynas have because the swing arm is attached to the frame, not the transmission as it is in the Dyna. I did a lot to the bike. Again, it was stock, and I added things like the Vance and Hines dual exhaust. It had the stock exhaust on it with the crossover. I found the Corbin seat online, new old stock, realized that this bike went out of production technically in '94, and by the time I got it in '08, a lot of things weren't being made for this particular bike any longer, but you could find new old stock. The Arlen Ness pieces you can see here at the flames, that's all new old stock, and the seat, the same thing. And so I've done that. We talked about the work shocks, the wind vest. It came with the chrome front forks. It came with the chrome wheels. This is changed. It's got an LED tail light, which is really nice because it's flatter. It doesn't the old ones stick out like that. The regular bulbs. I don't know what else I could say except get into the riding of this bike. And if you've never ridden an FXR, you'll be very surprised when you get on it. I had a Dyna Wide Glide, and when I bought this bike and I got on it and rode it for the first time after they unloaded it off the truck, I got on it right away. I couldn't believe, and it was stock at that time too. It didn't have the torque that it has now. I could not believe what a nice handling bike this was, especially compared to the Dyna Wide Glide. I like the Dyna Wide Glide, but this bike I fell in love with it. It's a very well balanced bike. It's probably the best handling bike that Harley ever made. I do tend to grind the pegs a little bit. They're flattened, but it keeps you honest. Everything was built around this cam, and it was built to match the profile of that bike in Florida. It wasn't done willy-nilly. It was well planned out. Everything was planned out. Everything works with this cam. In my opinion, that's the right way to build a bike, not put this part in and then, I like this part, or I change this or that over time. You build it once, one time, and that's it. Too many people take these bikes apart over and over again. which I don't think is a good idea. And plus, they never get the right combination because they don't do their homework. I did my homework on this bike, so it is the right combination. This bike will pull from the get-go all the way to $6,000. It's an 80 cubic inch Evolution. It's got the stock CV carburetor on it. Of course, it's been rejetted. It's got pretty fat jets in it. And this bike is a tree climber. It has so much torque. I'd say I'm guessing, because I'm not dynoed the bike, and I never intended to dyno. I can't stand. I dynoed one before, and I just couldn't take it. But my estimate is about 90 foot-pounds of peak torque and 90 horsepower. So that's a fair amount for a bike that weighs 650 pounds. It's a lighter bike for Harley, and of course I'm a lighter person. That helps too. But from stop sign to stop sign, there's not much going to beat me. So I think that you know enough about the bike, especially if you combine it with all the parts that I've listed. You can figure out a lot about the bike. I don't know what else to say about it. So I'd like to start it up. And I did not warm this bike up, so it's going to be, a little rough. It's carbureted. A little rough when I first started out, and then it'll smooth out in a couple minutes, and it'll purr like a kitten. Again, carbureted. It's not fuel injected. I do not use a choke to start this bike. It will load up, and so I don't recommend using the choke. It's not necessary. I just set the throttle lock to warm it up, and that does the trick rather than pull the choke, because it will load up. There's no question about it. So I'd like to start the bike. Again, I'm starting it stone cold, so that you can see, and then you'll see how it warms up nicely and purrs like a kitten.